The stars were silent until the first blast. A forgotten empire awakened with fire in its veins. The Skrulls didn't want peace, they wanted domination. Earth was the first target. But light moves faster than war. And Captain Marvel, she doesn't ask for permission. She answers with power. The silence between stars never lasts. It began with a flicker, not a signal, not even a frequency. Just absence. A star system blinking off like a bad memory. A SWRD satellite tried to ping the frontier colony on Xian 9. No reply. Then Xian 8, Xian 7. Gone. An entire chain of outer rim listening posts, blacked out like someone had dragged a claw across the galaxy. At first, no one panicked. Space was volatile. Systems glitched. Signals bounced off debris clouds. But then came the whisper. The Skrulls were moving. These weren't the Skrulls Earth knew. Not the confused refugees or the scattered shapeshifters who had once fought for survival. This was something different. Organized. Ruthless. They weren't hiding anymore. They were striking. And fast. Fury got the first full alert from a Kree outpost. Encrypted, panicked, mostly static. One clear phrase repeated over and over. Skrull ascendancy. Phase 1 has begun. The message ended mid-screen. Earth had no idea what was coming. Most humans didn't even know how close they were to being wiped off the map. But the people who did know, they didn't sleep that night. Maria Hill paced the deck of SWORD's Orbital HQ, watching the red blips multiply like cancer on the star charts. Every time she looked away, another system was gone. And they were all in a line, a perfect arc through the stars, heading straight toward Sol. The thing about the Skrulls? They don't knock. They don't send fleets with banners and bright warnings. They infiltrate, assimilate, and strike from the inside. By the time you realize something's off, you're already the next casualty. Reports trickled in from off-world agents. Captains vanishing mid-briefing. Crews turning on each other in zero gravity. Entire colonies speaking in unison like a hive. The Skrulls weren't just coming. They were already here. The Avengers were scattered. Thor was off chasing shadows in a shattered dimension. Doctor Strange was locked in a cosmic quarantine with something called a time parasite. Spider-Man was grounded, both literally and legally, after a multiverse incident no one wanted to talk about. Captain America, Sam Wilson, was grounded too. Not by force, by choice. He was handling earthbound chaos, riots, political pressure, and the kind of domestic instability that made it clear Earth couldn't afford to lose another war. So Hill did the only thing left to do. She sent a signal, not to Earth, not to any base or agency or hero in a cape. She pointed it upward, farther, beyond deep space. She coded it in binary and pain and urgency. A distress call, one name embedded at the core, Danvers. Carol had left months ago. Said she needed space, literally. Said the galaxy was bigger than Earth's constant mess, and she had to clean up what the Kree had left behind. She wasn't wrong. There were wars no one on Earth even knew existed. Civilizations caught between fading empires and pirate syndicates. She was building peace out there, or trying. And now, that peace had shattered. She didn't reply immediately. For 3 hours, Hill paced and waited while Earth's defense systems went from monitor to prepare. The moon base activated its emergency weapons grid. SWRD moved every satellite into defense formation. And the president was halfway through an emergency broadcast when the stars above New York flared. Just once, like lightning had torn through space. Carol Danvers returned at Mach impossible. She didn't ask for a briefing. She didn't land in style or stop for reunions. She hit the upper orbit, scanned the galaxy in a split second, and muttered a single sentence on a cracked channel. I've seen this pattern before. Before Hill could ask what she meant, the stars twitched again. This time, everyone saw it, a ripple through the dark, like something massive was coming. Not one ship, not a fleet, a presence. The Skrull warform, an ancient configuration of ships that moved as one entity. Not dozens, not hundreds, thousands of vessels, woven together like a machine organism. Part biology, part tech, part nightmare. Last seen during the Skrull genocides. Rumored to have been destroyed. It had returned, and it was heading straight for Earth. The first blast didn't hit a military target. It wasn't a weapon. It was a message, carved into the asteroid belt using gravitic force. A single phrase, "She is ours." The message was aimed at Carol. The Skrulls didn't want to conquer Earth. They wanted to take her, because this wasn't a war about territory anymore. It was personal. Carol didn't flinch when she saw the message burned into the asteroid belt. She is ours. No punctuation, no theatrics, just a declaration, chilling in its confidence. The Skrulls weren't coming to test her. They were coming to claim her. Back on Earth, the implications hit hard. What did they mean? Why her? Nick Fury stared at the satellite images, jaw tight. The last time the Skrulls were this coordinated, half the galaxy bled for a decade. But this wasn't about planetary conquest or expansion. This was targeted. It had her name written all over it. Carol didn't wait for answers. She accelerated toward the outer edge of the solar system, closing the distance between herself and the oncoming threat. But the closer she got, the more wrong it felt. Something about the war form, its formation, its silence, its eerie precision, didn't match the Skrulls she knew. She'd fought alongside them. She defended their refugees. This wasn't their style. Then a new transmission hijacked every frequency from Earth to Mars. A distorted voice, neither Skrull nor human. You left us. You abandoned the Accord. Now, you return to die with them. Fury's voice came through the line immediately. Carol, you know what that means? She didn't answer, but she did. Years ago, during the fallout of the Skrull War, she'd struck a secret deal. An agreement with a rebel faction of Skrulls, scientists, hybrids, and former assassins trying to break from both sides. They had one condition. They would disappear into deep space, untouched, unbothered, in exchange for never resurfacing. She helped them vanish, protected them from the Kree, lied to Fury, lied to SWRD, and now they were back with a vengeance. But why now? That question burned as she flew into the black, trying to get closer, to reason, to signal. But the warform didn't want to talk. It responded with action. 10,000 microships separated from the formation like insects swarming a flame. And she was the flame. Carol spun, twisted, and burned through them like a meteor. But something was wrong. These weren't automated drones. They anticipated her moves. They remembered her. One of them clipped her shoulder, not with a laser, but a needle. A syringe. It didn't explode. It latched. Extracted. She ripped it off and blasted it. But it was already too late. Her HUD screamed. Energy sync detected. Cellular mimicry in progress. They were copying her. Hill watched in horror as Carol's vitals spiked. Her energy output became erratic. For the first time since Thanos, she was losing control. Not because of power, but because it was being mirrored. Back on Earth, the warning signs became louder. Civilian satellites lost orbit. Drones malfunctioned. Energy fields twisted in ways that made physicists panic. Then, the first clone hit the moon. Not a clone of a Skrull. A clone of her. It looked like Carol. It wasn't her. The thing stood on the lunar surface, eyes glowing, suit cracked with unstable photon energy. And it stared down at Earth like a god waiting to pass judgment. Within minutes, 10 more followed. All versions of her. Twisted, enhanced, corrupted, created from that one needle-sized extraction. The Skrulls weren't invading the planet. They were replacing its last line of defense before the fight even started. Panic swept through the world's hidden networks. The world governments initiated shadow protocols. Deep bunkers were activated. Doomsday keys dusted off. But none of it mattered. Because if Captain Marvel was Earth's ultimate weapon, and now there were multiple versions of her fighting for the enemy, then Earth wasn't just unprotected. It was doomed. Carol knew what was happening. This wasn't war. This was psychological demolition. They weren't trying to kill her. They were trying to break her, undermine her legacy. make her watch herself burn the world she swore to protect. And deep down, she feared one thing more than any Skrull fleet or warform. What if one of them, just one, was better than her? More stable, more focused, less human. What if they didn't need her anymore? She'd never said it out loud, but being Earth's final line was the only tether she had left to the place she once called home. Without that, who was she? The clones descended toward Earth's atmosphere in formation, a reverse constellation, each leaving a trail of golden light, beautiful and terrifying. SWRD scrambled every aerial unit, but jets were meaningless. Lasers did nothing. That's when Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, made her move. She didn't wait for permission. She didn't ask anyone. She launched into the sky from New Jersey with homemade boosters, powered by courage and recklessness. "Only one Carol I listen to," she muttered, "and she doesn't sparkle like a villain." But her power, even amplified by her mutant/gene tech hybrid physiology, couldn't match a copy of Captain Marvel. She made it within 200 feet before one clone turned midair, extended a palm, and shattered her boosters with a flick of photonic force. She tumbled, screaming, and in that moment, the real Carol snapped back into control. She screamed through the sky, caught Kamala a second before impact, and hovered midair, eyes lit with fury and fire. The world below saw her rise, holding the young hero in one arm, defiance in the other. This was no longer a defensive mission. It was personal, and it was time to make the Skrulls regret ever reaching for the stars. Carol didn't land. She hovered, midair, glowing, furious. Kamala Khan unconscious in one arm, fists blazing with the other. The world below paused, cities, satellites, cameras, all locked on her, because the sky had split open and their protector had returned. The clones saw her, and they smiled. Not mechanical smiles, not programmed. These weren't dummies. These weren't blank slates wearing her face. These were her fractured versions, made from the worst corners of her power and memory. One has scar running down her cheek, a battle Carol never fought. One wore a Kree uniform, one she burned years ago. One was bleeding light, eyes crackling with unstable photon charge. They weren't mimicking her. They were challenging her. She handed Kamala gently to a passing SWRD drone and launched upward. Vertical streak, no hesitation. At the edge of the atmosphere, the lead clone intercepted her with a grin and a photon blast that split the sky. Carol didn't dodge. She absorbed it, then punched the clone straight through a meteor. The others didn't hesitate. In seconds, 5 versions of her collided in high orbit. Blows faster than radar. Explosions visible from Earth. People watched from rooftops, phone cameras shaking. Kids thought it was a movie. Adults knew it wasn't. Fury watched from the helicarrier as seismic alarms triggered, not from Earth, but from the pressure above. "She's outnumbered," Hill muttered. "No," Fury said. "They're outclassed." Carol wasn't fighting like a soldier anymore. She was fighting like a force of nature. She broke one clone's jaw with a crescent kick, spun midair, and caught another by the throat, just as it tried to phase through her. Her power surged golden white and raw, burning so hot it bent gravity. But every hit she landed, they learned. They adapted. Their next moves were tighter, smarter. Each second that passed, they got closer to becoming her. She needed a plan, not just power. She blasted away from them, hitting 0G hard and flared. Hard. A solar pulse rippled from her chest. A shockwave of pure light that disoriented the clones long enough for her to think. What were they copying? Her power? Her patterns? Then it hit her. They weren't copying her now. They were copying her history. Each one was a version of her from a different moment in time, broken off from memories, regrets, old scars, forgotten timelines. The Kree armor. The angry one. The hesitant one. This wasn't just war. This was revenge, built from inside her own mind. She clenched her fists, surged forward, and spoke out loud, not to Earth, not to Fury, not even to the clones. To herself. "You're not me," she whispered, voice burning through her comms. "I already outgrew you." Then she dove, head first, through her own legacy, Each clone came with a lesson. The first one was brutality, the version of her who believed every problem could be punched into dust. She dodged its swing, slipped under its blast, and whispered, "Power without purpose is just destruction." Then flattened it with a focused photon beam that burned a clean hole through a dead satellite. The next was hesitation, the Carol who once questioned her place among heroes, who floated above Earth for weeks wondering if she was needed. That one froze when she approached, unsure whether to fight. Carol didn't attack. She let it dissolve. Acceptance. But the third? The third was rage. The one that wanted to level every Kree ship, burn the accusers out of history, rewrite the galaxy with fire. That one screamed and charged, and hit hard. Carol reeled. They clashed mid-orbit, spiraling through gravity wells, punching through auroras and fragments of old war junk. That clone cracked her ribs, whispered dark truths into her ear, said things Carol thought she buried years ago. You left them. You ran. You gave up. Carol's breath hitched. Then she smiled. I came back and unleashed everything. Not a blast, not a punch. All of it. The full binary charge, the cosmic engine, the unchained core of who she was. Not what the Kree made her. Not what Earth needed her to be. Not what the Skrulls feared. Her. Light tore through the sky. Satellites shorted. The ISS went into lockdown. People across Earth looked up and saw a new kind of dawn. When the light faded, only one Carol remained, breathing, floating, alone, but not for long. A ripple bent the stars behind her. The war form had arrived. No more scouts. No more clones. The real threat was here, the thing that made the clones, that twisted her memory into weapons, that declared her theirs. It unfolded from space like a cathedral of war. Ships connected like muscle tissue. Bones of dead stars forged into armor. At its heart, a throne, pulsing with green light. A new Skrull hybrid stepped forward. Not a general, not a commander, an heir. You don't get to choose who you are, the being said. You gave us your DNA. You gave us your past. Now we take your future. Carol wiped blood from her lip and smirked. Come and try. Then she turned to face the greatest war she'd ever known, not just across stars, but inside herself. The war form opened like a flower made of nightmares. It didn't fire weapons. Not at first. It spoke in presence, a gravity shift so strong it distorted space around it. Comets bent, light wavered, and at its center, the Skrull hybrid stood, pulsing with stolen energy. Carol's energy. Her power, mixed with theirs, twisted into something cold and perfect. She launched first. No countdown, no warning, just raw velocity. A streak of gold and fire punching straight through the edge of the warform's armor. It didn't flinch. It adapted. The plating shifted, absorbing the blow, forming new armor where she'd struck. Like it was learning her, molding itself around her fury. Inside, the hybrid spoke through every frequency. You taught us power. Now we teach you evolution. Carol didn't answer. She dove again, faster, harder. And this time, she didn't aim to destroy the ship. She aimed for the throne. She crashed through layers of metal and memory, each corridor filled with twisted echoes. Rooms that looked like her past. The barracks where the Kree trained her. The field hospital where she almost died. The bedroom where she once hid from herself. They'd built this place out of her history. Every step forward, she was forced to fight ghosts, Skrull clones wearing her friends' faces, speaking in voices she trusted. One looked like Monica, one like Fury, one even wore the face of her mother. She fought them all, because this wasn't just a war form. It was a weaponized reflection. She reached the core. The hybrid was waiting. He was tall, armored in living metal, face marked by both Kree and Skrull lineage. His voice wasn't loud, but it echoed like it had weight in every world. You left pieces of yourself behind, he said, so we collected them. He raised a hand, and the walls rippled. 10 more clones stepped out. Not exact, not like before. These were enhanced, controlled, stable. Each one held a piece of her power, split evenly, perfectly. like her soul had been fragmented and handed out like war medals. She was looking at her own potential, divided. They moved as one. She fought alone. It was brutal. Fists slammed like meteors. Beams lit up the chamber in wild pulses. Her mind screamed to keep up, every instinct firing at once. She dropped 2, got knocked down by 3. The hybrid never moved. He just watched, calculating. "You could have ruled," he said, "but you ran. We don't run." Carol bled. She blinked through sweat. Her suit cracked down the middle. Then she stood, not because she had more power, because she remembered who she was. "You don't evolve by copying," she said. "You evolve by surviving." And she let go. Of control, of symmetry, of fear. She didn't try to match their movements anymore. She moved like herself, chaotic, unpredictable, painfully human. And it worked. She moved too fast to track, hit too hard to recover. Her punches were messy, her blasts unstable, but they were hers. And one by one, the clones fell, because they were perfect. And perfect doesn't bend. It breaks. She stood alone in the smoke, heart pounding, suit torn. The hybrid stepped down from his throne. "You still think you've won?" Carol grinned. "No, I haven't started yet." And her fists lit up brighter than before. Because this wasn't just a fight. This was the reckoning. The hybrid struck first. A surge of energy, dark green and gold, roared from his hands like a collapsing star. It wasn't just a blast, it was her power twisted. Familiar enough to sting, foreign enough to burn. Carol tanked it. The floor shattered beneath her. Her boots scraped molten metal. Her body trembled from the inside out. But she held the line, because this wasn't about strength anymore. This was about identity. "You think power makes you me?" she growled, rising through the smoke. "You don't even know who you are." The hybrid lunged, faster than expected. He didn't just attack, he matched her rhythm, moved like her, predicted her dodges, copied her stance, countered her punches. Like he had lived inside her skin. Every hit felt like fighting her own shadow. But there was a difference. He fought to prove something. She fought because she already knew. He threw her across the chamber. She slammed into a wall of living tech, left a crater. Her breathing staggered. Energy flickered around her hands, sputtering, failing. Then a voice crackled through her comms. "Kamala, hey, Carol, don't let him define you. You already lit the path. Just keep going." Just a few words. But they cut through the noise. Carol stood up again, slower this time. Not with rage, with clarity. "Thanks, kid." She stepped forward. This time, her power didn't blaze outward. It collapsed inward. She pulled every drop of light back into herself, dimmed the room, became a silhouette against the dark, just one woman, standing still. The hybrid hesitated. "What are you doing?" Carol looked up. Her eyes burned like 2 quiet stars. "Remembering who I am." She dashed forward, no trail, no theatrics. Just pure velocity. She let him hit her, took the blast to the chest, let it crack her ribs, then grabbed his wrists, and detonated a photon burst from point blank. It didn't explode outward. It imploded, pulling in the throne room, the structure, the clone tech, every corrupted shard of her past that the Skrulls had twisted. A silent collapse. The warform buckled from the inside out. On Earth, astronomers screamed as part of the sky blinked red, then vanished. In space, SWORD's satellites watched as a golden pulse expanded like a flower, then folded into silence. No sound, just absence. In the heart of the wreckage, Carol floated, alive, barely. The hybrid drifted, unconscious, armor sparking. She caught him, didn't let him fall, because even after everything, she wasn't like him. And that was the point. Fury's voice came through the static. "You good?" Carol took a shaky breath, looked down at Earth, saw the storms, the cities, the people, and smiled. For now. She re-entered the atmosphere, slow, gliding. No hero pose, no fire trail, just steady, human descent. When she landed, Kamala was waiting. "You saved everything," the kid said, teary-eyed, smiling. Carol shook her head. "No, I just reminded them who I am. The world would call it a victory. The Skrulls would call it a setback. Carol, she called it a reset, because now they knew. She wasn't a weapon, wasn't a symbol, wasn't a clone. She was Carol Danvers, and no one takes that away from her again.